from half-bear brothers to giant warriors, each with astonishing abilities. Discover tales of cunning, strength, and magic in a world where gods and monsters collide. Get ready to dive into the world of myths and legends as we explore 7 incredible mythical creatures and monsters, each with mind-blowing powers that have captivated our imaginations for centuries. Let's jump right in. Agrius and Oreus. In the world of Greek myths, there's an interesting tale about Agrius and Oreus. These two guys were not your average brothers. They were half bear and half human. Their mom was Polyphonte, who happened to be one of the granddaughters of Ares, the god of war. Now, the reason these brothers were half bear is kind of wild. It all started when Aphrodite, the goddess of love, got really mad at Polyphonte. See, Polyphonte didn't want to worship Aphrodite. Instead, she chose to stay single and hang out with Artemis's hunters. Aphrodite didn't like this one bit, so she cursed Polyphonte. This curse made Polyphonte lose her mind, and she had these half-bear kids with a bear. Agrius and Oreus were no regular kids. They were incredibly strong and pretty wild. They lived up in the mountains, and let's just say they weren't the friendliest to travelers. If you were wandering in their territory, you'd probably end up in big trouble because they had a habit of attacking and even eating people who passed by. Zeus, the king of the gods, wasn't too happy about their behavior. He got so fed up that he ordered Hermes, another god, to get rid of them. But here's where things take a turn. Ares, who was related to these half-bear brothers, didn't want them killed. He stepped in and talked Hermes into giving them a different fate. Instead of killing Agrius and Oreus, Hermes transformed them into birds. Agrius turned into a vulture, which everyone, including the gods and humans, disliked. Oreus became an eagle owl, a bird that people saw as a bad sign. Aloidae, Otis and Eales. These two were extraordinary Greek mythology figures, not just regular siblings. These two were massive giants, sons of the sea god Poseidon, famous for their incredible strength and remarkable growth. They grew super fast, adding 9 fingers worth of height each month. By the time they were 9, they were already a whopping 54 feet tall. As they grew up, they set a bold goal: to capture Artemis and Hera, 2 of the top goddesses in the Greek world. Their plan was to storm Mount Olympus itself. How? By stacking mountains on top of each other to create a gigantic staircase straight to the sky. They got all the way to the gates of Olympus, ready to grab their divine targets. But things didn't go as planned. The sun titan Helios warned them they were in danger, and Apollo, armed with his golden arrows, was ready to defend Olympus. Despite their size and strength, Otis and Eales didn't get their targets, but they did manage to catch the war god Ares and locked him up in a bronze jar for over a year. Ares was stuck there until Hermes, the messenger god, freed him, thanks to a distraction by Artemis. The story gets even more exciting when Artemis, almost caught by the giants, hatches a smart plan. She turns into a deer and leads them on a wild chase. As the giants throw their spears at her, she nimbly dodges them. When they finally think they have her cornered, they throw their spears again. But Artemis dodges at the last second, making the giants accidentally hit each other with their spears. And just like that, Artemis's smart trick marks the end for Otis and Eales. Amphisbaena. The Amphisbaena, straight out of Greek mythology, was a fascinating and somewhat eerie creature. Imagine a serpent, but not just any ordinary serpent. This one had 2 heads, one at each end of its body, making it quite a sight. The story of how this creature came into existence is linked to a famous Greek myth. When Perseus, a celebrated hero, defeated Medusa, one of the Gorgons known for turning people to stone with her gaze, the Amphisbaena was born from Medusa's blood. That's right, this 2-headed serpent emerged from the aftermath of an epic battle. Now, this wasn't your garden variety snake. The Amphisbaena was notorious for its deadly venom. Just one bite from this creature, and it was game over, instant death. Its unique body structure allowed it to move in any direction with ease, even backwards, which is not something you see every day. Plus, it was an adept burrower, able to navigate underground like a pro. But there's more. Some of the myths around the Amphisbaena get even wilder. There were tales that it could breathe fire or poison, which adds an extra layer of danger and mystique to this already intriguing creature. In the world of ancient Greek mythology, the Amphisbaena wasn't just another monster. It held a special place often associated with dark magic. It was frequently used as a symbol of evil, reflecting its feared and powerful status in the mythological creature lineup. Anemoi tuelai. These bad boys were far from ordinary winds. These guys were like the ultimate storm spirits, notorious for their strength and ability to wreak havoc in both the sky and the sea. Their dad was Typhon, who was a big deal in the monster world. He was known as the king of monsters, but got into a major showdown with Zeus, the top god. Unfortunately for Typhon, he lost and was sent packing to Tartarus, a really deep and dark pit. After Typhon's defeat, all the chaotic storms he left behind didn't just disappear. Instead, they transformed into the Anemoi Twelai. Imagine these storm spirits like Typhon's wild legacy, roaming around and causing all sorts of trouble without anyone to control them. They were free to stir up storms and chaos wherever they fancied. But of course, their wild antics couldn't go on forever. Helios, the god who was in charge of the winds, saw how out of control they were getting. So he decided it was time to put a lid on their chaos. He rounded them up and locked them away on Aeolia, his floating island. This wasn't just any island. It was where Helios kept all the unruly winds under control. The only way these storm spirits could get out was if the gods said so, or if Helios himself decided to release them. Antus. He was a unique and powerful character in Greek mythology. His parents were no ordinary folks. His dad was Poseidon, the god of the sea, and his mom was Gaia, the earth goddess. Antus lived in Libya, and he was known for a pretty strange and scary hobby. He loved to wrestle, but not just for fun. He would challenge anyone who happened to be traveling by, turning their journey into a nightmare. This wasn't your typical wrestling match. Antus was nearly impossible to beat because he had a secret power source, the earth itself. Whenever he was touching the ground, he got stronger and stronger. It was like he had an endless battery that charged up from the earth. As you can imagine, this made him pretty much unbeatable. And for those who lost against him, well, it wasn't pretty. Antus used their skulls to build a temple in honor of his dad, Poseidon. Creepy, right? But then came a game changer. Heracles, also known as Hercules in some stories. He's one of the most famous heroes in Greek mythology. Heracles was on his own set of adventures when he ran into Antus. They ended up in a massive wrestling match. At first, it seemed like Antus was going to win. He was just too strong with his connection to the earth. However, Heracles was not only strong but also smart. He figured out that Antus's strength came from the ground. So he came up with a plan. In an impressive display of strength and wit, Heracles lifted Antus up off the ground. This was a game changer. As soon as Antus lost contact with the earth, he lost his power. Heracles held him up in the air and strangled him, putting an end to his reign of terror. Arachne. Prepare to be caught in a web of excitement as we dive into the tale of Arachne. She was a famous weaver in Greek mythology who was bold enough to challenge Athena, the goddess known for her wisdom and crafting skills. Arachne was so confident in her weaving abilities that she even claimed to be better than Athena herself. This boast didn't sit well with the goddess, leading to an intense face-off. Athena threw down the gauntlet, challenging Arachne to a weaving competition, setting the scene for a legendary contest. Athena's masterpiece illustrated 4 battles between gods and humans in this contest. On the other hand, Arachne's tapestries focused on times when gods were unfair to humans. Once they finished, Athena checked out Arachne's work and, to her dismay, realized it was better than hers. Furious at being outdone by a human, Athena tore apart Arachne's tapestry. But she didn't stop there. In her anger, Athena cursed Arachne and her future generations to be eternal weavers. As a result, Arachne became the very first spider, doomed to spend her life spinning webs, a far cry from the grand tapestries she once made. Arachne. They were these really scary figures that represented curses and revenge, especially when it came to avenging the dead. Imagine these spirits as fierce women with a serious grudge. Their main job? To bring serious trouble? We're talking ruin and chaos to people who had wronged the deceased. Picture them as the ultimate payback squad. So, how did they work? Well, if you were involved in rituals that involved binding or cursing, chances are you'd be calling on the Are. But this wasn't something to be taken lightly. The Are were known for their frightening power. They could unleash their anger on anyone who crossed them, making them a group you definitely didn't want to mess with. And the worst part? If the Are cursed you, you'd probably end up with the same kind of injuries or harm that you had caused to the dead person. It was like a terrifying version of karma. These spirits were not just any mythological figures. They were believed to be the daughters of Nyx, the goddess who personified night in Greek mythology. That made them even more formidable. The Arae were thought to be at their most powerful in the dark, which makes sense, given their mom's domain was the night. Their presence alone was enough to strike fear into the hearts of people. Just the thought of encountering the Arae in a dark alley was enough to make even the bravest souls think twice. Wow, what an adventure through mythical realms. If you loved exploring these extraordinary creatures with us, hit that like button, subscribe for more epic tales, and tell us in the comments, which mythical creature do you find the most fascinating? Thanks for watching.